Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to go over how I built the TabView navigation for Spriggling. We're going to start with a new project setup that we finished in the previous video. So if you haven't seen that, I highly encourage you to go check that out first. Also, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel so you get all the updates when the new videos come out. And I will add a link to the source code for this video below, as well as a link to Spriggling if you want to download it, check out all the features we'll be going over in the future. Also, if you like the app, please feel free to give it a 5-star review. It can't hurt. Okay, so here's what we're going to go over today. It's a 2-tab app, one for home, one for settings. You will notice in Spriggling that there is a third tab for charts, but we're going to add that in a later video. For now, we're just going to keep it simple and get these tabs working. All right, let's dive right in. So the first thing we're going to do is add a new module for tabs, and we'll start by just adding our folders. Call this one tabs, and we'll add a new file in here. SwiftUI. We'll just call this tabs view. And we'll say tabs view. Then we'll also go ahead and add a test folder for this. Call this tabs tests, and we will add file. Call this tabs tests. Now we need to add a module in our package for this. So we could just copy the root one, rename it to tabs. As well as the target. Tabs will need composable architecture, so that's fine to leave that dependency. And that should go ahead and add our module. If we come up here and look, and there it is. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and update tabs view and bring in TCA. So since this is going to be a module, we can go ahead and make this public as well as the body and import composable architecture. And like I mentioned previous video, I like to just start with an empty reducer, and then we can add our actions and everything as we need them. So we'll add our store here. Feature, and then we'll add an initializer, and then we also need to update our preview. If we do that, we give it a build. We should be able to see tabs view. Great. So now we have our tabs feature created, but let's go ahead and add it to root before we add any functionality to it. So to do that, we'll switch this over to root, come up to our package, and we'll need to add a dependency in root to tabs. So we can just come here and write tabs and comma. That should go ahead and add it. We can test this by coming over to root and actually importing tabs. And this should actually build, which it does. Now we should be able to go ahead and replace launched with our tabs feature. And so we can just change this to tabs and add tabs feature here. And this will cause a couple errors, but we'll fix these. And so first one we want to fix is down here. We're going to, after the app is launched, instead of setting it to launching, we want to set this to tabs. So we will go ahead and make that tabs, and we'll make this tabs feature state. And then that should One thing we've also forgot to do is now that we actually have tabs in our enum up here, we need to make this equatable. So we can do this by setting this to equatable. That should get that error to go away. And then down here, we're going to set up our tabs view at this point. So this should be case let now dot tabs, and we're going to get access to the tabs store. And then in here, we want to show the view. And that should compile. There is one other thing I want to add here, and that's the ability to kind of view these things in the preview without having to jump to the simulator every time. And so what we can do is add access to our app delegate is where our root view is, a root feature stored. And then instead of passing in a brand new store, we can actually just pass in that app delegate store. And then what we can do is on up here, we can call delegate.store.send did finish launching. And this should actually allow us to preview everything in the preview without launching the app. And so let's check that out. Great. Now we're actually showing the tabs view. The next challenge here is that our tests are most likely failing because we changed this. Let's go ahead and run that, verify that it does fail, which it does. So what we need to do is update our test to point to tabs. And so this expectation is still true. We're initializing it to launching, but what we want to do now is verify that mode is set to tabs. And so just change this to tabs. And we'll just do a tabs feature state, and this should now pass. Oh, we forgot to import tabs. Everything passes. Great. So now we can go ahead and create our home and settings modules. So we can start by adding new folders for them. We'll start with home, and we will add a new file. This will be a view, and we'll just leave it there for, like SwiftUI view for now. We'll come back and change that in a minute, but we'll add another new folder for settings. And again, we'll add just a new blank template file for that. We need to do the same down here in our test. So we'll add a new folder, call this home tests, and we'll add a new testing file for that, and then one for settings. Now we come up here to package, and we'll need to add the actual modules. So we'll start with home. Need to add a library first. So we'll copy tabs and just replace it with home. And we'll need to do the same for the test target. Then we'll do the same for settings. Again with the target as well. And then that should build. Great. So now let's go back and update our views. We'll start with home. So as you can see, we have our modules up here now. So we can switch over to home and come down to this view. First thing we'll do is we'll rename this home view. And this as well. And then, like I said, we're going to start with our empty reducer. First, we need to import Composable Architecture. And then we'll paste this in. We will add a store. And we'll add our initializer. I need to make everything public. And then we will update our preview. And then let's call this home view so we can see it. And we should see this in the preview now. Great. Now let's do the same thing for settings. So switch over to setting module, come up to our settings view, and let's rename this settings view. And we'll do the same thing here. And now we can import the Composable Architecture. And we'll paste in our reducer. So next, go ahead and add our store and our initializer. And we will make everything public that needs to be. And then last but not least, let's update our preview. Oh, one more thing. Let's set this to settings view. That should be all we need. Let's go ahead and build. And let's check our preview. Great. Next, we want to add home and settings to our actual tab feature. But first, we need to add a dependency for them in the tabs module inside of our package. So we can come in here and add home settings. Now we should be able to come to tab view, switch over to tabs, and import home, import settings. We'll give that a quick build, make sure that works. Great. So in order to add home and settings as tabs, we first need some state to hold on to. So let's add a public enum, we'll call it tab, and we'll make it equatable. Give it home and settings. And then we will add some properties for selected tab, as well as our home tab and our settings tab. So we can go ahead and paste those in right here. And then we'll need to, in our initializer, let's create a selected tab. We can pass in, and we'll set it to home initially. And then we'll set all of our default values inside here. This will allow us to pass in a tab into the preview so we can see different tabs. Great. So now we're going to need an action to handle when the actual tab changes. So we'll go tab selected, and we'll pass in that actual tab. So about now is when we actually have to handle these actions and update our reducer. So let's go ahead and change this to reduce, and we'll take in state in action, and we will go ahead and switch on the action. And let's just go ahead and handle tab selected right off the bat, and we'll return we'll do a case let on that, and we'll return none just for now, just to get it all compiling. Let's see if we're good. Next, we're going to want to scope in home and settings, but first let's update our state when we the tab selected action fire. So we'll do state.selected tab equals the tab. That should make that warning go away. And so let's then add some actions first for our two tabs. And then our switch statement will complain, so we will go ahead and handle that. Case.home tab and settings tab, and we will go ahead and just return none. Great. Now we want to add our scopes. And let's give that a quick build, make sure it all compiles. Perfect. Now let's add our tab view to the actual view. So we can do that with a tab view inside here that takes in a store selection. So what that looks like is this tab view. And we're passing in a binding and sending tab selected when it changes. And then we will need to add our home view, and we will give it an image of house and a text of home, and we're scoping in that home view here, and we're also giving it the tag of the tab.home. And we will do the exact same thing for settings. And we're using the gear icon here. Let's give that a quick build and see if we can see it in the preview. Great. And we should be able to tab back and forth. And even better, if we come over to our root view and switch up here over to root and let that build. We're now showing that tab view, and we can actually see that here as well. Great, so we have our tabs, seem to be working, but we have added a new action to our tabs view, and we should definitely handle that with a test. So let's go ahead and do that now. So to write our tests, we need to first switch over to our tabs module, come down to our tabs tests, and we actually need to set this up a little bit. So let's import the Composable Architecture. And then let's import our modules. And now we'll go ahead and change this to main actor, and we'll make this tabs tests, and let's go ahead and call this tab selected. And then we'll need access to the test store, so let's create an instance of that. And we initialized our state selected tab to home, so we can initially just verify that that is correct. And so let's go ahead and do a build. Great, and then let's run our test. Great. So the next thing we want to be able to test is if we change that, it actually does updates. So we will go ahead and do an await store.send, and we'll do tab selected, and we'll set it to settings. Then we should be able to do $0 selected tab equals .settings. And let's go ahead and run that one. Perfect. So we're verifying that when we send in that tab changed event and we switch over to settings, that it actually updates our state, and that's exactly what we want. So there we go. We have a very simple implementation of tab navigation with just two tabs. But like I said, in the future, we'll add another tab, and we're also going to add some more functionality to these actual features we added. So like and subscribe if you want to get notified when those videos come out. And thanks everybody for watching. See you next time.